Hello everyone, this is Camera Flips, the best place to buy and sell used camera gear. This is episode number 5 of A Photographer's Life, where we talk to the people that made the pictures we love. Today, my guest is Jaem, a fantastic photographer based in Bangkok. James' passion for photography started in his childhood, and while he is an award-winning photographer for his emotional portrait shots, he is constantly experimenting with different visual composition as well as symmetries that surprise and often trick the human eye. During our conversation, we explore the different filters that our society, culture, as well as biology apply to photography, and we discuss if photographers have any ethical responsibilities in taking or assembling the shots. For James, photography is just one of the tools that an artist has in his arsenal to create a meaningful story, and he often pair his images with poems that he authored. Let's jump right into a conversation. So, hello everyone. This is episode number 5 of A Photographer's Life. And today, I'm incredibly excited. I have another international photographer with me, Jaem. He's based in Thailand. Incredible talent. We're about to show some of his pictures. He has a great intuition. Is sort of can I say that you are an artist, sort of an all-around artist, right? That for you, it's not just
Yes, you
photography.
can say that.
We can, say, oh, you can say that, and I'm very good in many things. Yes,
exactly. Thank you.
And I think it's, you will see I was able to combine pictures, intuition, and many other things to tell an emotional story. So I really look forward to this interview, and I'm sure you guys will not be disappointed. So James, I don't want to say more about you. We have the artist and the photographer here live with us. Can you tell us more, a little bit more about yourself and how did you get into photography?
Okay. So my name is Jane, as Davide has told you guys so, and I've started photography 17 years ago. I saw a friend of mine who took amazing photos. I was at the uni. I was a law student, so I didn't actually study or did anything, regarding the photography at that moment. And I thought, oh, I could like that too, because I remember when I was younger, I also liked to take photos from my dad's camera. And I thought, oh, I should get a DSLR camera, and then started taking some photos. But I didn't actually have that much money back then. I was only a student. But on my birthday, I think it's my 18th or 19th birthday, my grandmother gave me some money to buy a camera. So I got my first Nikon D50.
Yeah.
So that would become my first camera, and I was so excited about it that I would carry it everywhere. I had this big backpack which I put my textbook but also my camera there, and I would take photos of my friends, I would take photos of events, I would take photos of sideways, streets, ants, whatever, because I was so excited back then. And I started posting more photos on Flickr. And I got to know, exactly.
The old days of Flickr.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I still have it, but it's so inactive. It's kind of sad because Flickr is super, I think, friendly. And I actually got to know 3 or 4 people that have become my friends and really good friends as well. So it's a pity that it's not as popular anymore. Do you use it?
No, I haven't. I got into photography, more recently, and Instagram was already, the platform. But I felt, for what I remember from Flickr, that again, it wasn't about on Instagram is I want to show, not even my best life, a life that exists only on that endless scroll. And Instagram, where Flickr was really more about, okay, this is what I do. This is a picture that I like, and so you can have a more honest and sincere conversation. That's why you made friends rather than look at it and say, oh, how is it possible? This person is always on holiday. How can he or she look so good every time? And I'm so off like that. But that's the evolution of social network, and I'm sure that in 5 years' time there will be another one, and we probably would would have forgotten about Instagram, or would have morphed into something else. I'm interested in. So did your grandma know that money would have been used for a DSLR camera? So was she supportive of that, or did you just say, "Oh, thanks for the money, I'm going to buy"? I'm curious if sort of your grandma already noticed something about, she, is really serious about this. It's a form of expression in that respect.
I'm not sure if she did. I think it was my mom who mentioned to her that I like
Oh,
to
nice.
have a camera, and she just gave me that money. And yeah, luckily I actually used that money for the camera. I could have used it for some other purposes, but yeah. And yeah, so that was the start of it, for
Yeah,
sure.
17 years ago. So you never stop. Was like passion. The flame of
Oh
that
yeah.
passion is still burning.
Well, no, I think it's like it's up and down, and it's up and
Okay.
down. Maybe I had more passion actually at the beginning, because you didn't
Right.
do so with so much pressure or judgment or this competition that you could feel and see these days, from Instagram and Facebook, because you can see that so many people take amazing photos. And I think because of this competition, which I don't always like, but I can also appreciate it in the way that people become more competitive and you have so many great works out there. Yeah. But it's not always good for the psyche. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is weird how these things just sort of are affecting us in sometimes in a
Yeah.
positive way, because it's a push
Yeah.
to do more and do better, and other times, they push us a little bit down. When I said in introduction that obviously you have a variety of sort of artistic
Mm.
ways, I'm very interested whether in our one of our previous conversation you said something that for me was very interesting, because you said from the very beginning you were just going out taking pictures, and we will see
Mm.
in a moment some of those pictures that are very in the moment, right? You're not there to sort of capture a staged picture. You feel
Mm.
that this is the right moment to take the shot. But on the other hand, and this is something that I think it's worth discussing, on the other end, you feel very strongly about editing, that you think that is
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
sort of a form of art in itself, and a
Yeah.
very important part of photography. Tell us a bit more about this sort of potentially constructing impulses.
Yeah. Yeah. I like color in general. I like strong color, as you can see right now.
I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
It's Saturday. It's
Yeah.
Saturday night. Your time. So this is the appropriate color.
Yeah, it's like the pubs are not properly open. So like you have to have a pub at your own place. No, not really, but yeah. So I really like strong colors. I like vibrant things. I grew up playing video games like, Final Fantasy and some other video games. And I really like, in particular, the colorful aspect of it.
Yeah.
And so when I start taking photos, the things that attracts me a lot is contrast, vibrant colors, and something a little bit of a fantasy. So I think in the back of my mind, when I take photos of something, I always want to mold it into something that is storytelling, but at the same time also has this romantic, fantasy-ish aspect to it. And I also don't believe in, you have some people who would post photos and has this hashtag like no filter.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit my pet peeves, because for
You
me,
hate
I
them.
think there's
You
no...
hate them, those people that just take a picture and put them up like peasants. They're destroying the art. No.
Yeah, I report them.
No,
I report
that's.
them.
I will start doing it too. So no filter. Well, talk to the Instagram moderator. So why is that?
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is your pet peeve? What do you think that they're missing or not? What's the reason?
Good question. So I think because the moment when we see things, like we already see things through our filter. So our eyes can see things in this way because it was constructed this way. Let's say some other animals would have seen things very differently. And I'm wondering maybe if each of us would see things differently. Like there are people who are a little bit colorblind or like extreme colorblind. There are people who can see more colors than the other people. And I think I was told, or I read some, some excerpt of a research which says that like let's say you're taking photos of a sunset, and the sunset that you see and the sunset that you see behind your like camera, like the picture, would not be the same. And somehow maybe your eyes can see things even more vibrant and dramatic and more beautiful. And in some ways, people who enhance the photos afterwards actually wants to make it look more like what they saw from the original scene. So in a way, I could actually see why editing photos actually is an attempt to make it more of what they saw earlier.
More real.
Like, more real. Like each camera brands, each lenses take photos differently. So in a way, like everything's are filtered to begin with. So there's no point to be so Puritan or like purist about things and like saying no to photoshopping or post-processing. Like I'm all for that. Maybe except for like, journalism, which probably it's best to not change someone's pants color, for example, or like more. But otherwise, I'm all up for extreme makeover. Yeah.
I really like this point. This is the first time that someone sort of pointed that out to me. And the idea of thinking of editing, Lightroom, Photoshop, to name the most famous, as actually a way to restore our natural ability to perceive those nuances and those vibrant colors, rather than distort them. Because it's true, all these mechanical tools, incredibly sophisticated, but it is true that the human eye is still a machine that it's difficult to match. And I really like the idea, I'd say, that actually the no filter, it's something that reduces our ability to appreciate those things. So yeah, I will add this to my motivation for my next report to Instagram when someone dares to put an hashtag no filter and say, this is you really, guys, you're doing a bad job, you're just lazy. Love that. And I think this is the perfect moment. We were talking about colors, and we're also talking about you just mentioned journalism and how obviously pictures tells a story, and that story can have many interpretation. And the artist, true, we talk about colors, but also what we want to include in the picture can have a different effect. And maybe you may have a different sort of answer in relation to this. So let me see if I can put on the screen the first picture. Okay. Can you see it?
Okay. Yeah, I can see it.
Nice.
It's
nice. This let me just say, when you sent me this one, I thought it was amazing. I immediately thought about that scene in Schindler's List when there is the girl in the red coat. Obviously, the context is completely different, but it's that ability to have someone that stands out so much, that a girl has something in her eyes, and you can tell us more about it. And I'm really curious to, obviously, so our listeners can understand, where were you, how did you manage to capture this incredible shot, and what kind of story you want to tell with this picture.
Right. So this picture was from Hanoi in Vietnam. I was walking around, and it was around the time that the school was over. So all of these parents were picking up their kids, and it was raining a little bit. And then I caught the sight of this girl. She was wearing this red, how do you call it, like jumper? And it stood out so much because everything else around her was kind of in the bluish, greenish tone. So I'm like, wow, I had to snap a picture of this scene. So I took this picture and well, I actually took a few pictures. And when I looked at these pictures, then I picked this one picture and I started seeing how she was actually looking at the people in front of her in the bottom left corner. You
Yeah,
could see this
yeah.
boy and a woman who was looking at something below off the screen. So it seems like this girl was looking at them. And before I saw these two people, I thought that she looked kind of sad, like the little girl. Let's say if we crop this photo in the way that we took out the woman
Yeah.
and the boy, then we would have thought like, oh, this girl probably felt lonely. Maybe she felt like she was alone in the world. Nobody understood her, and it has this kind of dramatic storyline to it. But then when you actually saw the whole photo, it become less of this dramatic storyline, but it shows that she was curious about what's going on with this boy and his mother. Yeah, so that was
So
what I was capturing.
do you think that an artist, obviously we are not maybe talking about photojournalism when you report something that's happening maybe in a war zone or things like that, but do you think that an artist has an ethical responsibility? Like I know that this may seem a trivial question, but
Yeah.
you crop this picture, I think it's incredibly
Mm,
powerful. And people will definitely have will sort of feel those emotions that you just mentioned. She's probably misunderstood, she feels lonely, she's in a place that she doesn't
right.
belong, she's the only one wearing a bright color. Many people can, but then deep down that I mean,
Yeah.
maybe she feels the way, but more likely she was just looking at something
Yeah.
else in the
Yeah.
picture. Do
Yeah.
you think that an artist has a sort of responsibility, like say, I have the opportunity of creating all these great feelings and I am the only one that knows that that I'm manipulating the audience in that respect, or it's actually the art itself, the ability of generating those?
Mm. I think we do have this responsibility of present things in an ethical way. It depends on what the audience, like who the audience are as well. For example, if this is in some sort of documentary or like an article about lifestyle in Vietnam, probably I think that you should try to present it in a way that is closer to the reality as much as possible. But then again, if you just want to use this picture for an exhibition in regards to loneliness or like like psychological theme, then I think cropping this photo is like can be the thing that you can do. So I think at the end, it came down to the purpose of how you want to use that photos. Having said that, some of the things that came to my mind right now is also the fact that I was taking photos of children. And I know that this can actually be quite a sensitive thing to a lot of parents. I think less so in Asia, in the Southeast Asia, but I think in European countries, when I visited like European countries, I would be more concerned, in fact, because I think there was sometimes like this hostility towards photographers taking photos of kids, but it's not so much like that in Asia. Yeah.
It's interesting. So let me stop
Yeah.
sharing for a second.
Sure.
I think it's very interesting what you just said, because you also spent some
Yeah.
time in Europe for sure. I'm not sure if you spent time in
Yeah.
the US, but definitely you had, and you also work as a translator, right?
Yeah.
So you definitely have a privileged point of view about the differences that exist in culture and photography. What you just said, it's an interesting point. What from a photography or photographer point of view, what do you think other differences are in respect of how people maybe take shots in Asia compared to the Western world?
This is a very hard question. So I think the differences are that the perception towards the purpose of people taking that photos are different. I think somehow there's more awareness and also skepticism in the Western world when it comes to taking photos of children, or actually anyone. I think like privacy rights, it's something that is quite something that stands out a lot in the Western value, like individualism, whereas in Asia, it's more of a collectivism, like as a value. So people were more like, like our children other than my children. I mean, it's less so these days, but I think there was this governing idea that people share a lot more in some aspect, which encompasses taking photos of other people. So let's say when you go to smaller provinces in Thailand, for example, sometimes the parents would even ask you to take photos of their kids because they feel proud that like their kids are fun enough or like colorful enough, or they dress really well so much that people would take photos of them. I don't know what's right or wrong. It's a really hard topic. Like for me, I think that like if I have my own kids, I think I would also be a bit cautious and conscious about other people taking photos of my kids as well. But I think that's also because I get a lot of the Western culture from living in the UK, and also I was traveling in Europe. But then again, now you have a lot of parents who kind of almost like advertise their kids online by themselves anyway. So it's a little bit of a funny, situation. Yeah.
And do you think that this more, and obviously sort of the idea of individual sort of, let's call it privacy, right, or your image rights, it's a corollary of that more individualistic probably culture compared to a more collectivistic? And do you think that this also has an effect on how people react? In a sense, I can tell you that picture of that girl, I think has a very deep effect in the Western world, because we can empathize so much. Like how many times we have felt misunderstood, how many times how many times it's all about us lonely in the crowd, while maybe, and I'm just sort of speculating, someone maybe from Thailand could actually see just a crowd, or think more in a collective way, rather than immediately or have just a reaction, say, okay, yeah, that's just a scene, and a very a daily scene, rather than elaborating on that. Do you think that also this changes the reaction of viewers?
Yeah, I think for sure. I don't know about this picture in particular, because I mean, this picture screams out kind of loneliness when you don't look in the bottom left corner.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Thai people, when they see these photos, they would also think like, wow, this kid looks like she's alone. But I think in the less obvious case, probably people would see things a little bit differently, or a lot differently, just based on how they grew up, how, what kind of culture they grew up into. I read a book, I don't remember which one anymore, but there was this like experiment about, so basically these researchers let Asian people and Western people looking at the same pictures. And it turns out that more Western people were looking at the main object of that picture, whereas more Asian viewers would look at the details. I don't know how legit is this, but this could also be a thing.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, and obviously, we're speculating or elaborating on that, but that makes sense from a practical point of view. I would say if you're a photographer
Yeah.
and you're creating a shot, or you're looking at something, then sometimes you may want to put yourself in the shoes of viewers, and it will be very interesting to see how
Ah, yeah.
the same picture sort of perceptions would change, and this always fascinates me. and
Yeah.
and so you said you spent some time in the UK as well, and this is
Yeah.
another shot that you
Yeah.
took. Another girl, not just a
Yes.
girl.
Yes. Not just a girl.
Um, this, I mean, again, another incredible moment that probably lasted a few seconds, and you had to be ready, and you got it. Uh, Lots of feelings going on. This time, I don't want to anticipate what I feel.
Okay.
You will let me know. But this picture is also important because you receive an award because of that. So
Yes.
tell us tell us a little bit more about this one. Where I think it's incredibly interesting.
Okay, so well, let's talk about that award first. So I was studying in the UK for a year. I did my Master of Law at UCL, University College London, and then there was this activity. They call it One World Week, which happened around the beginning of February. That was 2009, and they called for photos of students that students and staff took in that time. And so that was about like 1 or 2 years after I got my camera as a present from my grandma, and I took a lot of
Nice.
photos in London, and I decided to submit 10 photos. I mean, of course, I wanted to win the prize because it's £250, which is a lot for a student. So anyway,
It's
like
all
I submitted.
arts for the art's sake. Like you're not interested in money. It's all you clearly.
Well, to be honest, like all of these photos were taken before this call for submission. So in a way, like I didn't go out and take photos for that purpose. I didn't even know it exists. I mean, if I did, I wouldn't have told you anyway. But but yeah, I took these photos before. So I submit these photos, and this photo in particular, I was on the underground train, and this is the district line. So when I submit, I call this for the district line. I was sitting in the car next to this girl, and I remember seeing her sitting, on the next car, and I thought, wow, like the whole scene was so photogenic. So I took my camera out and I just snapped, I think 1 or 2 pictures. And that was really brief. And I was very pleased with the result as well. And I think it was only later that, it was only later when I looked at the pictures again that I started to see other details. But at that moment, like I had no time to be like, okay, so this guy was there and there were like some other people behind her and stuff. I think at that moment it was very street photography kind of thing. You have to be quick, and then you snapped a photo, and yeah, and I got this photo out of it. I think I was quite lucky that I think like sharpness and like perfect photo without noise is not a consideration for this award, because otherwise this picture wouldn't have won the award that way. But probably it conveys certain emotion that the referees like. So yeah.
Why what retrospectively, because in the moment you just feel
Yeah.
the impulse, right? Retrospectively,
Yeah.
why do you take the shot? What caught your eyes in that, and were you trying to communicate
Uh-huh.
something, or something hit you in some way?
I think in some ways I was curious. Like I don't remember if she was traveling alone or with someone. I think she was actually traveling with someone, but just the fact of this girl I don't remember very well, but it's possible that she was also looking at me with curiosity or whatever. So there's something that was quite interesting in that moment. And I think I just followed my intuition, and I just took my camera out and take these photos. Like, to be honest, if I was me, but if it was me now, like at this age, sitting in the same train, I don't know if I would take these photos, because right now I think my my older self would think, oh, is this appropriate? Like, would the parent be like screaming at me, or what would she have thought? Maybe she would have not been happy about this. But back then I was so young, and I think maybe that's also the pros of being young and a bit more reckless, that you would be more brave and in a way also a bit more silly. But somehow I got that photos out of, I think, listening to myself at that moment, I think. Yeah.
I think, I mean, it's crazy thinking how many times, our, we sort of self-censor ourselves.
Yeah.
And that prevented something artistic to even come to life, right? And it's, and your concern today are absolutely right. Well, the mom say, "Well, you're taking a picture of my, what are you doing? You creep!" Like, who told you to do that? You're absolutely right. And entertaining that thought even for a second, you would have just missed it, right? That's it. You didn't do that, and you listen just to your heart and to your intuition, and here it is, something that you got an award for that, but it's just a beautiful shot. And can I tell you what I, when you sent me this, I was like, like, this is, I can feel something immediately. And for me, so this is my interpretation of this. So what immediately came to life? For me, it's sort of there are two main sort of objects in the picture. Obviously, the girl, but also for me, it's the older man. And I can see this older man that is, I imagine, is be tired. It's toward the end, probably, of a work day.
He does look tired.
Exactly. It's the standard, commuting back after a hard day working in the city, and you have this girl. This girl is looking at you. This girl is sort of your childhood dreams, and he's telling me, in this case, this is how you ended up, or how you could end up, right? If you don't follow your dreams. Like, she looks at,
wow.
She looks at you and say, it's perfectly fine, is wearing a blazer, is certainly successful in in financial terms. You assume all of this, is super tired, but this is you. This is you in a few years if you don't listen to your heart. And a sort of like a Christmas Carol, when they show you the past, the present, and the future. And this is the future, and obviously it's a projection. You have the possibility to change that if you want. So that's my interpretation.
You have a good imagination.
That helps. That helps a lot. When in London the sky is always grey and stuff like that. There's nothing much to do outside, so you have all this colorful thoughts in your idea. But this is the beauty. This is the beauty of something that doesn't talk to you. Like, sorry, that is not stated. Obviously, it's you can see something else. Someone else can just appreciate the sharpness of the image, and and obviously, and that's the beauty of photography or visual arts. It's about the variety of emotions that you can get. But I think it is a great shot. Really, really, really powerful. Did you use your original D50? Have you changed the gear over time? What are you using now?
So I'm not sure if that one was D50 or D90. So I bought a D90 when I was in London. I don't remember if that shot in particular was taken before I moved to D90. But it's either like the two of them. But I want to go back a little bit to what you said earlier, actually.
Absolutely.
Like after your interpretation of the photo, I realized something that is quite like interesting to me. I think like one of the reasons that I took that photos, or that one of the reasons that that photo exists to begin with was that kid was looking at me, and I think that is something that sometimes we as adults don't do, whereas kids have this confidence of not, like, they don't fear being judged. Like maybe judgment didn't even exist so much when you were so young. So when they were curious about something, they were just looking straight at it. Whereas like with adults, sometimes we just try to avoid eye contacts and so on and so forth. But in that photo, that kid was just looking at the direction that she was interested in, whereas like all the adults were just doing their
Like
own things. If it was, yeah, and
and she's
there's
like,
no, well, yeah, exactly. I think like back then, 2008, 2009, there was no, I mean, there were some smartphones, but it's still not that prevalent. So if that photo were taken right now, you would have seen like people with their smartphones on their hands, but you didn't see that in that photo. So people are still reading like this tabloids on the tube.
yeah, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
this very interesting observation. You know, somehow when we grow up, we again we unlearn certain behaviors because we were told that they're not appropriate. In the same way that when you were younger, you took these pictures, you probably wouldn't today.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and sure, some is our education, and there's a perfect reason why we do that, but then we tend to just things are more and more in the nuances of shades of gray, not that type of shades of gray that you may think about,
Yeah.
but
Wow.
we lose we definitely lose the colors of our childhood, and I love how you sort of with your work you take them back. Is there any other form? Now we've just looked at photography as a standalone medium of expression. Do you
Yeah.
combine this with other? Because soon there's another picture that I would like to show, but you combine this
Mm-hmm.
with something else. Words, sounds, anything in your work.
Yeah. So I like to um, have this process where I almost paint on my photos sometimes. Like I would so much putting like I would add extra colors. I would sometimes draw something on photos, or sometimes I would also use the photos to inspire my writing or poems.
Okay.
I don't do it so much right now, but before I would like to look at the photo, and then I would think about some sort of nice words or poems and then write it down, because I think it's just what we have been doing tonight. Like we looked at the photos and then you saw that, I saw this, like we saw different things, but it's somehow quite deep and it's open. Like there's no limit to what we could think of some things, and it really rouses your imagination. And I think it's such a good practice. And I'm also a little bit of a daydreamer as well. So I enjoyed doing this kind of thing. I think you understand. Yeah.
Very much.
So
So as the picture comes first, and then based on what you feel, then you sort of
yeah,
write the poem. Is the other way
yeah.
around sometimes when you feel inspired, and then you try maybe to build that shot in maybe something more abstract that we're about to put on the screen. How does it?
Yeah, I think so. Like the things that you are about to put on the screen is actually the other way around. So it's the photos that are part of an exhibition.
Let me
Um,
let me put it up so
sure,
we
sure.
have some context in that respect.
Sure.
Okay. Well, that is very different from what we have seen so far.
Yeah, yeah.
Equally beautiful, and yeah, tell us about the creative process. How this came to life is clearly part of the story. There is
Mm,
something in there. Tell us more about it.
yeah. So last November, a friend of mine, she was organizing an art exhibition in Chiang Mai, Thailand, where I used to live. Now I live in Bangkok, and she wanted to have it in a theme of um, well, she called it sleep, dream, and the ungrim. And the word ungrim is kind of a word play. So she refers to the Brothers Grimm
Yeah.
stories. So she contacted like 7 or 8 different artists, including me, and she asked us to produce something for this exhibition. And most of the artists are really good painters and drawers. And I was feeling a little bit insecure because I didn't know how to create photographs that would fit in this theme and would not look so like embarrassing, like comparing to the other people's, painting and drawings. But anyhow, so like I know that I can't really draw the same way or paint the same way that other people do, but I do photography. So I came up with this concept that I would draw a little bit and then I would combine it with photography. So so these 4 pieces that you've seen right now, I drew them first and then I scanned them and then I actually like took out like pieces of the photos that I took throughout the year and then um, paint them on the, how do you call it, like a space. So imagine when we were younger, sometimes we have this draw book where we have, like a picture and line, and then you can color.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called coloring book. So you can color. So that was the idea of this art.
So you feel obviously you designed the outline, I would say,
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
picture, and you feel
yeah,
the areas inside with fragments of pictures that you
exactly,
took. Oh, that's
exactly,
fascinating. And about, again,
exactly.
from specific pictures, you were just looking for colors, or also from I'm going to take pictures of a common theme that also fits
Yeah.
well with what was the process?
So basically, I would call this style of art like digital patchwork.
Yeah.
It's like, when you were young and you cut like something from magazine or whatever and
Yeah,
start
yeah, yeah.
to stitch it. I don't know. Anyway, so back to the story. So it's so the concept was Brothers Grimm, right? And so most of us would pick different storylines. Some people pick Snow White. Some people would pick Cinderella. And I had this story that stood out in my childhood for a long time, and I don't know why. And it was the story of a kingdom. So it's a bit of a funny and sick story in a way, actually. So there was a king and a queen and a princess who's their daughter. And the queen was dying. And before she died, the king promised her that he would only remarry if he could find someone as beautiful as her. And he couldn't find anyone except his own daughter. And of course, his own daughter wouldn't want to marry her own father. But she couldn't say no. I think it was also based on, like the time, like long time
He's
ago.
the
And
king. Also, you cannot say no
yeah,
to
yeah,
the
yeah.
king.
And the Brother Grimm story is kind of dark as well. Anyway,
Very
so
much.
she couldn't say no directly, but she could come up with certain condition which would make it impossible. So she said to him, all right, like I would marry you if you could provide me 4 different dresses. So this story is called All Kinds of Fur, right? And the 4 dresses that she asked him to make were a dress as golden as the sun, which is the one with the blue background. And the next one is the dress as silvery as the moon, which is the one with the pink background.
Yeah.
And then a dress as, I think it's as dazzling as the stars. So that was the one with the grayish black background. And then a coat that is made of all the skin and the fur of the animal in the kingdom, which is the last picture on the right. And well, based on the story, he actually managed to make this 4 dresses, but she ran away anyway. So there was a happy ending. So I thought, I was quite intrigued by this story, not the story itself, but the dresses. Like I'm very, like, as I told you before, I like colors, I like drama, I like vibrantness of things. So I'm like, okay, I was gonna tackle this story then. So I started to draw, and then so for example, when I did the golden one, then I would look through, my photos, especially the one that was not usable, actually, like the one that sometimes overexposed and you wanted to delete it, but somehow you kept it. And I just looked through like all the photos, and then I would select like the photos that have this color scheme that is reddish, orangish, pinkish, like strong, warm color, and I would keep it in a folder. And then I would move to the silvery as the moon one, and I would select like a part of the photos that looks kind of silvery-ish, grayish. And sometimes I would also take photos of like stones or like mosaic, so I could also use that as well. So this process also go with the star dress as well. And then the fur coat, then I thought, okay, I'm just gonna use the pictures of the animal that I took
Yes.
myself. So like you could see that there were some photos of dogs, of some birds, an elephant, and all sort of things from actually like different parts of the world, in fact. And yeah, and then I chose the background. I kind of like this like pastel color. And as you can see, like now you get these 4 photos together. And actually I have it with me if you would like to see them. I have some of them. So I printed them out in A4
Yeah.
format. So
Do you have them? Yeah.
yeah, I have them here. So like,
Let me stop the
sure.
the sharing so we can see it on the screen.
Yeah. So they look like this, in fact.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
I printed on some sort of canvas, so you can see
Yeah.
that it's like this. Yeah. And so this is the sun and the moon, and then I have the star. Oh,
the other way. Yeah.
you have the star and the fur. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So these are the ones that I put on at the exhibition, and I'm still trying to find a way to maybe like commercialize it, because I think that they are cute, and I think some people would enjoy having them.
There is 100%.
Yeah.
There is something there. I love the storyline. I was sort of, I say, okay, I don't know. And then I started to understand, and I think it's great. You imagine these on a wall. Obviously, you need the 4 of them. You said you have a wall that has, the space for it, and someone comes in and say, oh, what is that? And you can sort of take them, by the hand through the process. First the story, and then how. I was curious, how do you know how many pictures did you use to make the 4?
These. I think around 150 photos.
Wow. And you sort of find the detail, obviously the section with the right color pattern, and then digitally
Yeah,
apply to. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
exactly. I mean,
How long did it take? It wasn't a 1 hour
um,
exercise, I guess.
no, it's about, I think it's a week in total, from the start to finish. But it took longer than that when it comes to deciding what I needed to do. Like, um, you know, until your idea crystallized and you know for sure what you're gonna do. And after I have made a decision, it's actually not that difficult. Like once I made the sun, this one first. And I think once you got the first one, then the other ones like came out like much faster. And I also did something quite funny with these as well. So for example, like I have a friend who said, oh, I should put her face into, like one of these. So I actually put like her face into one of these. And, it's quite nice to have like the audience of the exhibitions seeing their own face. And
it would be great as an idea. You have just just the outline of a person. You cannot even recognize the gender, and you just fill the entire with obviously different colors. Just like faces or fragments or their skin all over, and to see that we're all from we may notice some difference when we're close, but then those differences absolutely are removed when you look at the bigger picture. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Like same but different in a way.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very interesting medium of expression and type of composition. It can really you can use it for many things. Have you done any other of these sort of more abstract work recently?
Mm-hmm. Not so much recently, but I have done them over the years. So abstract work is one of the things I enjoy doing a lot. Sometimes I did things as simple as putting two photos together in a symmetrical way and create a different image. I'm trying to see if I have one in my room right now. Hold on, can I grab it quickly?
Yeah, absolutely.
I might have something. Okay.
Please.
One second.
Okay.
Okay.
Is the artist ready to find more of his creations? I never had this in an interview when I continue sort of just by myself. I think it's interesting. If you're listening just on audio, you're missing the part when I am just by myself. Hey, I was continuing the conversation just by myself. Hello.
Wait, are you talking alone? Because I took my headphone out.
I was continuing the conversation just by myself. I thought it was quite interesting that you were and the difference, because the funny thing is this will probably go out as audio as well, just audio.
Yeah.
And people will miss out if they don't see the fact that the artist and the photographer just say, okay, I'm leaving. That's great. Talk to you soon. No, what do you have for us?
So I have this picture. Well, I actually have two pictures, but I'll show this picture because we were talking about this abstract theme. This was a picture that I took of. Wait, I'll ask you what you see in this picture.
It seems the reflection on. It's not London, no. It's the reflection on a river, right, of buildings. And it's perfectly symmetrical that you mirror that on.
So you can also look at it like this too.
Now I see a spaceship.
Yeah. Oh my God. I think you are good. I mean, I think you're the first one that would have named this picture the same way that I named it, maybe. Anyway, I
Nice.
call this photo spaceship called Bangkok because this is a photo of Bangkok like this. When
Okay.
you see just the half of it, and then I just put them together, and somehow I could see the spaceship. So this was kind of the fun, experimental, not project because it's like a single picture, but this also get um, shown as well in some sort of exhibition. Yeah.
Fascinating.
But yeah, I
That's
love the
great.
vibrant colors. Yeah. And then, well, this is not so abstract. Well, kind of abstract. I took this photo when I was in London of a friend of mine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you know the interesting thing is like I took a lot of these kind of photos when I started taking photos. Like I would play around with my friend. This was in London. This is my friend. She's from Italy.
Ah.
She lived in Trieste as well
Oh, really?
at some point.
I,
Yeah.
I probably know her. I mean, there are like 10 people from Trieste, so
yeah, maybe. Yeah, if we are the same age, I'm not too sure, but maybe.
okay.
So, like she had this with her, and I asked her if like I could take photo of her with this, and we just use this like study lamp lighting and
Yeah.
create this photo. Yeah, and I found it. What is this? And I found that it reminds me of the movie Silence of the Lamb. In
Yeah,
fact,
it's in a they
yeah,
have in the
yeah,
poster they have like a interesting. You see so many things.
yeah,
What I love about photography, it's that ability
yeah,
to really adapt it to so many things and to create so many different emotions with just a tiny adjustment. And even if we go down the editing part, the abstract part, really it is a blank canvas, and it's just a one of the ingredients. uh, I mean,
yeah.
that was great, and as often happens, I felt we could go on for probably another hour,
Yeah.
which is great. But when I said it,
I
I
think no
said
one would have time to do anything else.
no, it's I'm so grateful that you dedicated so much time to this interview and to this conversation with me. uh I love the topic. I think that there's again a lot more to discover. We just saw a few other examples of things that are like, oh my god, this is mind blowing. Where can people find you on the internet to get in contact with
Yeah.
you, to talk about your pictures, to just appreciate them?
So the best way right now is Instagram, and my Instagram name is poemgraphy. So like poem, POEM,
Yeah.
and then graphy, like photography.
Yeah.
Which is kind of my theme, I think, because I like to dream, I like to write, I like to fantasize about my photos. So that's why like it's poemgraphy. Yeah, so at poemgraphy, and then you see my photos there. I also have a Facebook page, which I think there's a link on that Instagram page as well. But
I will make sure
you can
to
see
put,
more or less a lot of work on Instagram.
and we make sure to put this in the video. What's your Flickr account?
Ooh, it's
If
well,
someone
I
wants
haven't
to read.
updated them for a long time. But you can definitely check it out. It's Mitamada,
Yeah.
MITA, so Mita
Yeah.
Mada, MADA. Yeah, but it's quite interesting because it's something of the past. I think I stopped updating anything for a long time. So when you looked at Mitamada Flickr, then you could see something from
The past.
decades ago. Yeah, which
Yeah.
is nice. Yeah,
Interesting. Well,
yeah,
I mean, we shouldn't be. I mean, we are the people that we are today because of the things that we did in the past. Some good, some less good. And but it is what it is. Jay, thank you so much
yeah.
for this hour together. I truly enjoyed it, and we had the opportunity to look at an amazing picture. And I hope you had fun too.
You're welcome, and thank you so much to you too. I really enjoyed this chat, and I feel grateful that you invited me to be your guest.